Hello, interwebs, and welcome to Close Up. I'm your co-host, Joe.
And I'm Arnold. I'm Ryan.
And Bullet Train and Prey both recently released, and we have opinions we'd like to share. This episode will be split down the middle, starting with Prey. Full spoilers ahead for Prey. Not so much for Bullet Train, because Ryan didn't see that, but let's see if I can convince him to see it as best I can. So you're kind of getting a Joe Explains as a bonus here. So zoom into our medium shot now. What was your hype level like going into Prey?
None, because I never watched any of the Predator movies growing up. I knew about them. I knew about Alien vs. Predator. This will be shocking to some people, still haven't seen a single Alien movie, which is blasphemous to say. And it's not that I don't want to watch them. There's just like, you know how like you say you've seen one movie, and then there's like 5 others you haven't watched and people freak out about? With me, It's like these movies, the Ghostbusters.
You know, and then like Ghostbusters either. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I hate when people do. I did a whole sketch last month called Toxic Fans Be Like, and that was one of the things. You haven't seen blank, and I just did that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's that, and then it's some other franchise. Why is my phone blowing up? You're supposed to be on silent. Shush. Mm. But then I watched this because I heard good things about it, and I really enjoyed it. And after watching this, I went and watched the original Predator, and I have thoughts on the original Predator. But other than that, I really enjoyed it.
I only heard about Prey recently, just before it released. I never saw a trailer for it even. I didn't even know it was part of the Predator franchise. And that's another franchise which, for the record, I've never seen a film from before now, so I had no expectations whatsoever for Prey. And while you admitted to not seeing things like Ghostbusters, I'll admit the one I always get flack for is Die Hard. Never seen a single Die Hard.
I've seen the first one, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it is a Christmas movie, for everybody wondering.
All right, that'll be a debate episode, but no, I agree with you. All right.
It's happening during Christmas.
And that brings us to our close-up. So, what are your thoughts on Prey? You're the one who got me to watch this thing in the first place, so.
I really liked it. It's just what it is someone taking an older IP and kind of not remaking it, but reimagining the world that it's in. Like, this is set, I think, 300-ish.
1750.
Yeah.
Is what
yeah, 200 some whatever. How many years before the first Predator? I think this is supposed to be like when the Predators first come to Earth.
Potentially.
Potentially. Who knows? I don't know the lore. Who cares?
They can make a prequel to the prequel. Who knows?
Yeah. And it's set with this, I want to pronounce this correctly, the Comanche tribe?
I believe that's how it's pronounced. Yes, Comanche.
And there's this one lady in it who I need to get the name right.
Naru.
Thank you, Naru, who is this female hunter in the tribe. But of course, it's 17. What'd you say? 1716?
15, I believe.
1715, and women don't hunt back in the day. I haven't seen a lot. I've seen a few people complain about, oh, can we stop doing this trope where it's the woman trying to be a hunter, but she can't because society says she's not allowed to. It's like, well, this was what society was back in the day, so deal with it. And you slowly throughout the film, you see her develop her skills. You actually see her even like be more innovative than some of the men in her tribe, with like tying her tomahawk to a rope and having her be able to call it back in a way, kind of like Scorpion. She doesn't say get over here, but like kind of like that.
Yeah.
And her skills she has some skill at the beginning, which is good to see. She's not completely like level 0. And it was cool to see her skill set evolve over time. And what was an interesting fact is that this film on Disney Plus not only has like the original audio, which I listened to, but also has like a Comanche dub over it.
I believe I read, I think it was just before the film or in the description that it said this was the first ever film dubbed in Comanche.
Yeah.
Which is
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I didn't listen to that version of it,
Mm-hmm.
but hey, it's there, and that's awesome.
And I have a small nitpick when it comes to not use of subtitles, but it's just a personal thing, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I had to listen to this movie with subtitles because there was a lot. There was the guy speaking in French, for example. They don't subtitle that at all in English.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Even the subtitles in the movie are subtitled in French for those parts.
Yeah.
And when they're speaking,
That's one of my nitpicks when...
Yeah.
That's one of my nitpicks when some of studios do is when they do a different language, and they do it on purpose. For this one specifically, I read an article where the reason why you don't get subtitles with the French when they're speaking, especially when they're in subtitles, is because they wanted the audience to be just as confused as the main character.
I was just about to say that's what I thought they were doing, because I thought, well, she doesn't understand French. There's that one translator guy whose name I don't remember at the moment.
French.
So she's kind of the go-between. So I did like that, even though it's kind of frustrating on some level to not understand what they're saying, I also like that we're just as confused about it as she is. And you kind of have to guess. But for me, the subtitles also really helped when I was watching it with subtitles, because I'm not fluent in French by any means. I don't remember. I haven't taken French since grade 9.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago. I don't even remember. I guess that was 10 years ago. I feel old now.
Oof.
But yeah, so it's been about 10 years since I've taken any kind of French, but just reading the subtitles, I could understand enough to kind of see what they were saying. Some of the things were pretty insulting, but I'm like, hey, I understood that.
Yeah, it's funny because normally I really hate when movies do that when they don't. Because sometimes even on like streaming services like Netflix or even Disney Plus, like sometimes they'll just take subtitles completely away and won't put in their own. Like Netflix does this thing where they'll take subtitles off of the film, or like even like, you know how like at the end credits they do like a epilogue of like written text of like what happened afterwards.
Yes.
There's been some movies where they've taken that out, and it's just really it's really strange. And then they put their own subtitles there, and it's really distracting. And some movies they just don't put in this, like John Wick, for example. You know how all the subtitles are like really flashy and whatnot. I didn't know that till the third movie, because when I watched the John Wick trilogy, I had to watch the first two on Netflix and then the third one on Prime. And I noticed, holy crap, these subtitles are freaking amazing. And then I look up scenes from like the first one, and I don't understand why they do that sometimes. And like I've tried looking it up, and there's like really no good explanation. But for Prey, I think it works because it puts you in the mindset of the main character.
Yes, agreed. Very much agreed on that. So what else do we have to talk about? I think this film was really well directed. There's a lot of beautiful shots in here showing off I believe I read it was filmed in Alberta, which just looks gorgeous. I think you could watch this film with the sound off and get a lot of it, because between the beautiful landscape shots, a lot of this story is just told through action. There's not a ton of dialogue to go around, which I liked. It's pretty stripped back, just focuses on the story. It's pretty... I don't want to say relatable is the wrong word, but you can understand it easily enough just watching it, which I think is the benchmark of a decent film.
It's a very simple story, yeah.
Yeah, film is a visual medium, so on some level you ought to be able to understand what you're watching just watching it.
Yeah.
Films like that especially tend to have a pretty good international appeal. That's why things like silent films 100 years ago did pretty well, and sync sound was kind of a barrier for international audiences, because then all of a sudden you had to hire all these people to dub things over, whereas before they just switch out the dialogue cards with just written languages and keep the movie as it was. There was a lot less effort involved in those because no dialogue. So so just the fact that you can understand while watching it helps kind of form this communal experience around a movie, I think.
Yeah, I really like the action I want to know what like the budget for this film was, cuz
I think it was low.
The action for it was pretty good.
It had to be comparatively low.
Yeah. Why doesn't it just give me an answer right off the bat? Anyway. But yeah, I thought it was really... I thought the action was pretty good, except for one scene where it looked like it was a one take. I thought the camera was...
She's fighting the trappers?
Yeah, I thought it was like a little bit shaky, but that's just the personal opinion, and honestly was a pretty decent... If it's a real one take, they did pretty well. But I don't trust...
That was okay.
Yeah, I don't trust filmmakers anymore with true one takes anymore. Ever since like recent films.
That's true.
But other than that, yeah, I thought the action was really good. I thought the hunting scenes were pretty decent. Anytime the Predator was on screen, I got excited.
Yes. Just
to see, like... It's funny, because it's violent, but it's not gory, in a sense, whenever the Predator's on screen, you know?
Yeah. I think I'm just a little desensitized to it, but it's not too extreme.
No.
Comparatively.
I mean, there is a part where I think it's a snake, and he just rips, like, this... No, it's not a snake. Yeah, it rips the mouse or whatever, and then the Predator kills the snake. Oh no, this Predator, like, rips, like, a spinal... The wolf's spine or whatever.
Oh no, it guts him.
Yeah, guts him or whatever, and...
Yeah, the wolf jumps on him and the Predator slashes its stomach open and all the guts spill out at a, like, extreme long shot.
Yeah. At that point, I was just kind of like, whoa, that's crazy. To see that, because I haven't watched a Predator movie. What else? Yeah, I really liked the main character a lot. I liked her motivations and all that, and how she's not just like skilled in the sense of like physicality, she's just smart, because she's using from what her tribe wants her to learn, which is like medicine and how to cook and all that. Like, she's using those advantages to help in the wild to hunt. Yeah. Which probably makes her the best hunter.
I thought she was just okay. I mean, and that's one of my criticisms with the movie, is I didn't really love any of the characters by any means. I enjoyed it. I got it. I was satisfied enough with it. But I didn't really connect with her. Mm-hmm. I kind of just, okay, this is good, but it's not hitting me on any emotional level, anything she was doing or anything she wanted. And maybe that's a very subjective thing, but that's just kind of how I felt watching it. I didn't really connect with her, but nothing bad about it.
No, I didn't feel that sort of connection either, but I wasn't bored watching her, which is a good thing.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
There's two scenes, which is funny, in this film that might be my favorite, that don't have the Predator in it. Or don't have the Predator fully in it. And one you might criticize me on. The first one is when she's in the mud pit. And
that was a great scene.
It was a great scene. And she's like trying to... It's kind of funny because I recently watched like a YouTube video of like Survivor Man judging like scenes like that. And like what to do. So I was like, okay, is she going to do what she's supposed to?
That's what I was thinking too. I'm like, okay, if it was me, I'd probably try to like shoot one of her arrows into a log or something. Oh, and then she went for the machete or tomahawk.
Tomahawk,
like, oh, that's better. That's a better idea.
And I liked how like the mud pit where she's completely covered in mud, it was like pretty much a callback to the original Predator.
Mm-hmm.
Which was cool to see.
I thought that's what that was, but I also haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So that was really cool. It was really intense. Not to the point where it was like, oh, she's gonna die. But like just to the point where it was like, if I was in this situation, I'd be freaking out.
And what was the second scene you thought was great?
The other one was the bear scene.
That was awesome.
I thought it was awesome. I've seen critiques on the CGI of all the animals, but you tell me how to have good animal CGI with an $88 million budget.
War of the Planet of the Apes. Any of the new Planet of the Apes movies.
They have a higher budget.
Okay, I don't...
And Andy Serkis, anyway.
The reason I don't really care that much, just because the CGI was used pretty sparingly, to be clear, I thought the CGI was bad, but it was also used sparingly enough.
Yeah.
Most of it was the choreography, the filmmaking, the choreography, the just combat, stunt work. That was the focus of this movie, and I thought they did all that stuff well, so the occasional bad CG moment didn't make me want to complain about it to you for 20 minutes on this podcast, like I sometimes do.
Yeah. It's really, I give it some leeway with the animals, because it's really tough to make animals look real. And for the most part, I watched most of it on my phone, because I'll just, like, download movies on my phone and then I'll watch them on break at work. And for the most part, it looked decent. I mean, there's some parts where, like, yeah, it doesn't look great. It's really hard to do. But I think what they were focusing more on was the actual Predator itself. And there were some scenes...
Great. The Predator looked great.
And there were some scenes where, like, is that fucking real or is that CG? Like, near the beginning of the film, I was like, this Predator's full CG. Oh, God, what is this movie going to be? And then there's some scenes where I can't tell if it's a guy in a suit or if it's CG or if it's a mixture of both.
I think it is a guy in a suit. Because part of me, when I was looking at it, it nearly looked like a muscle suit and prosthetics. The body was I feel like the body was almost definitely a muscle suit. The face, I'm not so sure about.
I think the face was CG like a little bit. Or it could have been one of those things where it's like it's practical and then they add bits of CG on top.
The CG was probably when the mouth opened up.
Yeah.
But when it's just seeing the face. But they also, once again, they used it sparingly. The Predator's invisible for most of this movie.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a cool choice, because it makes the monster a little bit scarier. You don't really know what you're dealing with here.
I mean, here's the article right here. Most of it is practical. Some of it is CG.
Cool.
Which I assumed. I don't like the camo effect. I never, even in the original, and again, it's 1987 or 86 when that movie came out. But even now, I just think it looks strange. I don't think like a camo effect hasn't really looked good on film. And it does its purpose, but for me, I was just like, yeah, I can tell that's highly CG.
Yeah, I can't think of a good one. I
can't think of like
to counter that either.
Good camo effect, really. But also, like it's not my. If I was told like, hey, you need to make this camouflage and like make it basically invisible, I would not know where to start. So the fact they were able to pull that off was pretty good.
So I thought another criticism of the movie, I thought the movie had a pretty slow start. Like I said, I was interested, not really connecting with anybody. That whole bit when her and I think her brother's name is Tabe go to fight the lion, and you know that's interesting enough stuff. But for me, the movie didn't really get going till her and the dog went to go after the Predator. And that's when you get scenes like her and the dog fighting the bear and
real dog.
Real dog. And that dog was really good in the movie, actually. I really enjoyed that. It was like, to say it gave a good performance might be a little weird, but I think the dog gave a pretty good performance. Even. So then after that, they fight the bear, and then she meets up with her friends. I thought that was a really cool fight when she fights that one dude who refuses to
to let her leave,
to let her go. And I thought that was
I thought it was going to take like a really dark turn with those two fighting, and I was like, please don't go this way. But me too. It's literally just him like it's literally just him just beating the shit out of her, like, fucking listen to me. Just one that, but I thought it was going to take like a weird turn. I was like, oh God, please don't do this. But it didn't, thank God. It just was like, this guy's tired of her shit. It's just beating the crap out of her. But also, no one listens to her.
I might have felt bad about that if she wasn't fighting back too.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Okay, she can hold her own.
She like stands up for herself too. Yeah.
Yeah. So this hunter guy beating up a young girl. Okay, that's bad, but she's fighting back too. So good for her.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still, 3-on-1? So she was going to lose either way.
Oh, for sure. Power numbers. Yeah, I liked...
That was a good scene.
I liked all the actors. I really liked the brother.
He's probably the best one.
Yeah, because he wasn't really like trying to make her not a hunter, but also was kind of like not really supporting it in a way. It was like it was an interesting mix, and I kind of like that dynamic there, where it's like
it kind of subverted my expectations too, because usually in those scenes, her brother, who's really good at what he does, would be the prick who's kind of holding her down.
Yeah,
and being like, no, I've got the hunting thing. You just, I don't know, be a girl and do gathering and medicine and whatever. But no, he was actually kind of supportive of it. Whenever all his friends said, oh, just let her go back to camp, he said, no, she's pretty good at tracking, actually. We could use her.
Yeah, that's good to see. Some actual, like, good characters.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've, like, seen, like, movies like this in terms of, like, horror and thriller, where, like, characters are actually good. Like, well written. Instead of, like, no, you're a girl. You can't do that.
Yeah. And of course, like I said, I already criticized that I think the characters could have been written better, but in terms of suspense and thrillers, this is better writing than most of them give, so...
Oh, for sure.
It's definitely a step up in that regard.
I want to know who the director is, because he shits on the French pretty hard.
Very much so. Which I have to say I'm slightly offended, because I am descended from... Are
you part French?
Very much so. My ancestors were one of the first who settled in Quebec from France.
Interesting. Well, from personal experience, I'm a boy who played hockey in Kingston, Ontario. So sometimes we would shit on the French a little bit when they would come into town and try to beat us.
Yes. I believe my direct ancestor was the first white child born in Canada, direct from French settlers.
Interesting. Well, he's American, so that didn't really help.
I mean, I've also got some First Nations heritage as well. I don't remember which tribes. It's a Métis as well.
Oh, he's born in Philly.
I got a lot of background.
Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is what happened. Like, English and French settlers came in and basically... I think this is like the starting point of them taking over the land. Or maybe like in the middle. I don't know much about history around this time, but I feel like...
Yeah, I was surprised to see some French people there, because I'm pretty sure they said this story is set on the Great Plains.
Yeah.
And I know the English were out there. Hudson's Bay Company owned most of the land out that way in the plains. So I know there was a lot of English people who were out there, but I don't really know how far
could have been.
I don't really know how far the French trappers got.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So that I'm not sure about.
Maybe he just doesn't like the French. Anyway.
Possibly.
I liked how... This is why I think she's really smart, is because she uses... Spoiler alert. She uses one of the French trappers as bait for the predator, which is what happened in reverse for like earlier in the movie in that scene. Which that scene confused the fuck out of me. Like in that the ash woods. Because, like, not in terms of the action or whatever, but, like, did the French burn down part of that forest first? Or is it
I've heard people critique that scene for that same reason, and I think what some people have said is, yes, they did burn it down, probably to get a clearer field of view in case the predator did show up. They didn't want all that foliage around messing up their eyesights.
That's true, but also, like, how are they putting that out with 1715 tech? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, forest fires aren't that hard to cause.
Yeah. But no, like how you put it out. That's what I want to know.
Well, in 1715, they didn't care so much about putting it out.
That's true. Maybe they were just like, fuck it.
Exactly.
Anyway. Oh, I forgot to mention, the reason why I like this movie so much is because it reminded me of Far Cry Primal a lot. And I played that game a lot. It's basically the same premise as all the other Far Cry games, but you play as this, I'm hesitant to say caveman, because I don't know what's politically correct anymore. But you play as this,
Neanderthal,
like, primitive human. And it's the same thing, you're saving your tribe from, like, the bad tribe or whatever, and you're trying to take over stuff. And it kind of reminded me of that a little bit in terms of the hunting stuff of like the bows and arrows, the sticks and all that. Yeah, so that's why it reminded me of that. And whenever a piece of media can remind me of another piece of media without it being like a ripoff, that's an instant plus for me.
I got kind of Assassin's Creed 3 vibes.
Mm. Oh yeah,
especially when she's whipping around the tomahawk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I love that
she
game
had
so much.
Going through the forest, fighting the lion. I think Connor fought some lions in that game too.
He tried.
Yeah, kind of
That was the first time where I thought I was worried because the CG on the lion, even though it was at night, I was like, uh-oh. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But like, what else can you do? You gonna get a real mountain lion? No.
The first one that got me was when the Predator ship comes in the sky, and it was just the ship. I'm like, oh, this looks like TV CGI. Oh boy.
It's tough though. Cause like I know we're gonna have this discussion in probably a different episode, but it's like how much more can you add on to make something look real that doesn't really exist? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such like a conundrum that VFX artists have, and they just don't have time. It's really just like the reason why CG looks bad or why people can just call out CG is because we're just given CG stuff all the time, so it's easier for people to just see something and be like, oh, that's CG now, and we understand what it is.
Most CG is good enough to be blended in that you don't even notice.
Yeah.
Most of it. But then it's the big stuff that they didn't have time to detail
stuff like
properly.
Exactly. It's like
the
details.
Animals. Doing backgrounds and stuff, a lot of those backgrounds are probably CGI and you don't even notice because it's
there's
background. When you put in a giant bear?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's hundreds of compilations where it's like CGI effects that you didn't even know were CG. And so there's one example like Wolf of Wall Street where Margot Robbie is like walking down a deck and you don't realize like she's supposed to be in Italy or whatever, but the entire background is actually a blue screen. Like you just don't notice that.
Exactly.
But really what it comes down to is just time for these VFX artists. They want it to look as perfect as possible, but they're on a time crunch, which sucks. So that I give it a little bit of leeway. And stuff with like animals, they'll do a full breakdown of animal stuff. They'll show you like how they built it up from scratch, like from the bones to the muscles to the fur, how it affects and like wetness and stuff. And I think it depends on the artist too. There's one show that I stopped watching, but in season 1 of his Dark Materials, which is based on like the Golden Compass books, the polar bear in that show looks outstanding. It looks so real. You need to look up a clip. Right. It looks fantastic, and they need to hire whoever did that all the time. But also, it's an HBO show, so they're just throwing money everywhere.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but they did back then because they had
Taking
Game of Thrones money.
Canceling stuff. Warner Bros. is a discussion for a different day. All the stuff that's going on with them lately.
Oh yeah, don't they have another 10 years or whatever? They're doing a 10-year plan or whatever, something like that. But yeah,
something like that.
That's my small defense for CGI animals in a way, because like, how do you make? Because you can't get a real bear. Because the famous Bruce the Bear actor, who I don't know if you know about, I think is either dead or just too old. There was like a really famous. If they needed a bear for, like a live bear for a movie, they would call up Bruce. Like his name is Bruce or whatever, and he was raised as like a film bear. So there's a scene of him like chasing someone. I think he's chasing the guy from Silence of the Lambs.
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins during one scene. He's in Game of Thrones for a bit. And it's funny because like when you see him roar in the show, that's put in later. Because if a bear is actually growling and roaring, then you're fucked. But like he's trained to to do the motions just to open his mouth in a way. But that's my little take on Bruce the Bear, who is an amazing creature.
Yes. Correction,
it's Bart the Bear.
Bart the Bear.
I want to get the name right. Wait, it said he died in 2000. Then who was the bear in fucking Game of Thrones? Maybe it was a different Bart. Anyway. But yeah, Bart the Bear. Pretty cool guy.
Okay. So what else? I did like that Naru, unlike, let's face it, a lot of female leads nowadays, who I think a lot of female leads are badly written. They're not really given character arcs per se.
Mhm.
They're kind of just presented as just kind of being awesome, I guess, as compensation for all the decades that women were just damsels in distress, but now they're kind of the opposite way. Now they're just awesome at everything
Yeah.
without us actually seeing how they got to be that way, just because they are. I don't like how a lot of women are written nowadays. So I appreciate when I see it done well, and I think Naru's pretty good. Because you do see her train, you see her fail, you see her get better
Mhm.
as she goes. She's not necessarily the best, but she's really good
And
at
what
she
I
does.
what I really liked is she never like regresses. There's never a point in the
Yeah.
movie where like she fails or whatever. She's like, I can't do this, and then someone comes up to her and says like, no, you have the skill set to do this. Like she's never backs down from like what she wants to do, which is really refreshing to see.
Even though everybody's always telling her, maybe don't
I'm
be
starting
a
to get really sick of seeing that movie trope where like a character will fail and be like, and then there's like 20 minutes of them like quitting or whatever, and then like another character just be like, no, actually you're like one of the best to do it. It's like, I am one of the best. Like I'm starting to really hate that trope.
just kind of wastes time, doesn't it?
It's like when like the friend group breaking up before the finale or whatever. It's like, oh my god, seriously? The last time I think I saw that was like It Chapter 1, and it was like, this is 2017. Can we not do this?
Yes. Although the only thing I'll say about Naru's skill set is that I think she was a little too competent in that last fight. Going after we see the Predator slaughter so many people, I didn't really buy
Mm-hmm.
that she could take him on in this last fight the way she did it. Like the traps were really, really smart, really well laid out, the way she could kind of bait him with her parkour skills.
Yeah.
That's really cool, but it just kind of broke
She's too well
my
written.
yeah. It just kind of was my suspension of disbelief. It just the way it was done was a little bit okay. You're having a little too easy a time doing this. I think
my just to play devil's advocate. I feel because maybe this Predator is like one of the first to arrive on Earth. So maybe he was like a bit cocky and not really taking Naru seriously like he did for the entire film. And also you just can't have the Predator win at the end of the movie. That's not fun. I mean, it would be.
they kind of do, but I'll get into that in a bit. They kind of did win, but I just want to cover this point for a little first. Yeah. So
I've seen some people criticize like at certain points where it's like, how can the Predator not see her when she's literally like in her vision or whatever? The Predator sees an infrared, not just from the helmet, but like even when he takes it off, it's like completely red or whatever. His vision's fucked. That's one of the things that like slows him down a bit. But other than that,
did she eat the flowers?
Yeah,
in that
she ate
final
the flower.
fight?
Yeah,
For that final fight.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps it a little bit.
Yeah.
Now that you say that helps me. Okay, that makes it a little bit better.
It was very strange to see like the Predator like chop his own arm off and then just be like, well, that sucks. He's got no pain receptors whatsoever.
Doesn't seem like it. He got
maybe it's adrenaline. I don't know. Predator adrenaline.
He stepped into a bear trap earlier. He's been
oh god,
shot.
That hurt.
I mean, she stepped. Okay, I believe when the Predator stepped into the bear trap, when she stepped in the bear trap, I'm like, your leg's done, girl.
Yeah, her legs should have been just gone. I don't know how it wasn't. Maybe because she was wearing like boots and all sorts of leather, but like
no,
you
step into a bear trap, you're done.
That part, she was like, "Ow," and it's not on her acting, but I think it was just the direction where it was like, "We're not," and she's not like affected by it really at all, except maybe a scratch.
Yeah, that little bit bugged me.
But also, who knows how powerful are 17, 15 bear traps?
But I've been kind of critiquing the last bit of the fight there, but I will say I loved that last fight in many ways. how it all, everything she learned came together at the end. Everything with the mud, the mask, the tracers, the her tomahawk skills, her parkour skills, just everything. Probably a couple other things I'm forgetting too. Just using the environment around her, the spikes on the trees.
Yeah.
Using the shield against it, so he cut his own arm off. Just everything she saw in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's not just a hunter who, like the guys at the very beginning said, "Yo, you face your prey and say this is it. You're going no farther and just fight them." She strategizes, watches her prey's movements, really thinks about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, uses their own strengths against them.
The predator becomes the prey. Damn.
Is that what the title of the movie was about?
Not her, but the predator?
Wow. But yeah, I just thought that was...
because he punched a grizzly bear out. You don't just do that. It's a grizzly bear.
Really well done.
The sound effect, just the little moment of the grizzly bear fucking up the predator for a little bit, I was like, yeah, that would probably happen.
And
but I was just like, and then he just punches the shit out of him. I was like, I don't know that was really satisfying. I don't know why. I don't know why seeing a bear getting clocked was satisfying.
Because it's awesome.
It was the sound. It was like clunk.
I've never seen anything like that before.
That reminded me of like 80s like gold in a way. Just like, yeah, we're going to have a bear and an invisible man fight each other, and then the invisible man's going to clock out the bear. Okay.
Well, it should have a bit of 80s cheese to it. But that scene wasn't really cheesy, to be clear. I thought it was really cool, but...
It was cool. It was intense. I loved it. And then he takes a bath.
Yes. So now I got to double back to what I was saying before, how a lot of people seem to have missed this, actually. The tribe almost assuredly all gets slaughtered at the end. But you don't see it. Did you watch... Happened? Exactly. Did you watch the credits bit?
Don't tell me there's an end credit scene.
Well, you know, like bits that kind of look like cave paintings over the credits?
Right.
Or
oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't really pay attention. What happened?
Exactly. The very last shot of those paintings at the end of the story.
Oh, right!
You see some predator ships coming from the sky over the tribe.
Right, yeah.
Just in those paintings. And the other thing is, Predator fans, which I had to read up on this, they say that gun with the 1715 on it, the Predators were in possession of that gun in Predator 2 all the way back in the late 80s or 90s or whenever, and they gave it to one of the human guys or something like that. So the Predators were in possession of that gun that Naru had at the end of the movie, and then you see those 3 ships coming out of the sky towards the tribe. Implication, that tribe got slaughtered. The Predators came back, killed them all.
That's crazy. So, no sequel?
Maybe a sequel.
There's gotta be a sequel to this with how well it's being received.
I don't know if it would star these same people. I could see a pretty cool scenario doing different historical Predator movies. Where they...
Oh, I was thinking... I at first was like, would it be cool if it was like during the American Civil War or like the...
Revolutionary War?
The Revolutionary War, but like that's 2 Assassin's Creed 3 for me.
Yeah. I think that would be a cool, though, just a series of one-off movies set in different periods throughout history where predators attack people throughout the world. The first one was...
Because that's what made...
Where was the first Predator set?
The first one... Oh, don't do this to me. The first one was set...
Was it South America?
I think it was South America.
Looks like so the first one's set in a South American jungle. This one's set in North American plains. Next one could be set... Who knows where and when, but I think there's a lot of potential there. Sure. The Alps, a frozen environment.
The movie was filmed in Mexico near the popular beach resort Puerto Vallarta. Okay. I butchered that. I think they do say it was in Mexico, too, during the film, from what I remember.
All right, we talked about Prey a lot, so unless you have any more thoughts, you want to go on to Bullet Train?
Yeah, I did say I was going to talk about the original Predator. When I first watched it, there's actually not as much Predator as you think there is. I think they're trying to do like the Jaws effect where you don't know what it is until it reveals itself, like in the third act.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me was kind of numb to that when it first revealed itself because I've just seen clips growing up and stuff. So it wasn't a crazy reveal, but I have to go back on my own critique. Like that suit, the practical effects, my God, like masterwork. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, as memed as he is, he has a really good performance in this. Like, he's not over the top. Like, he's like being like kind of serious in a lot of scenes, like being the military guy. He actually has some pretty decent acting chops. So personally, I think I would put Prey. Oh my God, the budget was $15 to $18 million for the original Predator.
Wow.
That's how much a movie should be made for. Anyway.
It forces you to get a lot more creative.
I do really like Prey because I think I'm just coming at it from a... And it just sounds blasphemous to say that's better than the original Predator. But I just think how it's shot differently and...
I cannot say.
Yeah.
I really liked Prey. I'll have to see the Predator.
I think Predator is a classic, like, 80s movie, but I just think this one's shot really well and evolves the story. I'm not saying the original Predator is bad, but I think this one evolves the story really well.
Yeah, well, I'll have to see. So
it's on Disney Plus or Hulu if you're in the States. I don't fucking know.
So do you want to do Bullet Train now?
Sure.
All right, so let's zoom back out to our medium shot and discuss Bullet Train. So what were your expectations going into Bullet Train? Or I mean, why didn't you go see this one?
To be honest, I forgot. It came out, and it's one of those movies where I was like, yeah, that looks really good, but I'm just gonna probably wait for it to stream. Like, it wasn't one that I was excited to go out and see by myself. I'm kind of saving those tickets for like other stuff. But I like the setting. I like Brad Pitt. I liked all the different actors. It looked really good. I enjoyed the trailer for it. The fight scenes looked really well choreographed. I liked the Staying Alive remix or cover in the first trailer. I thought that was really cool. And overall just looked like a nice aesthetic of a movie, which I will see at some point, but I don't really see myself rushing to the theater right now to see it, which sounds blasphemous from Brad Pitt fans, but... And I like that he's doing like an action movie, which I don't know if he's done in a while. I'm sure he's done one, but I don't know if he's done like an action movie in a while. I can't think of one. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. It's just it holds up. It's sad to think about.
2005 or something.
Yeah, 2005, 2004. It's sad to think about because they're not together anymore and they've said some shit about each other, but it's still a great movie.
Yeah. All right. For me, the first trailer for Bullet Train compelled me. I thought, this looks like it'll be something different. I wasn't entirely sold, but they had my attention enough to check it out. I expected a good time, some well-choreographed action, and a dose of humor for good measure. So, let's see if I can convince Ryan to watch this someday. Do my best, anyway. So, I thought this was a lot like Top Gun Maverick in many ways. It was very down to the simplicity of it. It's a bunch of assassins on a train. They have to survive the night while fighting each other, and they all go after this briefcase. Which, that's basically it. So
I saw a funny theory that someone was like, it's the same briefcase from Pulp Fiction. And that's why everybody wants it.
That theory will be proven false, but you do see what's in the briefcase.
I hope he never reveals what's in the briefcase. Quentin Tarantino. I think he's gone on record saying that. He's like, I will never tell. Because I don't even know.
It's been 30 years, so, I mean, he's doing okay so far, not saying anything.
Yeah.
He'll say it on his deathbed.
No, he won't. He's that bitter. No, he won't.
In the case was
Rosebud. Rosebud.
Okay, so I thought, so like I said, Bullet Train's a lot like Top Gun Maverick this year for me because it was a very simple plot done really, really well. It had a lot of likable characters, tight plot, compelling story, kick-ass action, doesn't overstay its welcome. The writing in this movie actually surprised me in multiple ways because I just kind of go into action movies not expecting them to be, I'll say good. I'll say the action is usually okay, but the character work is usually a letdown. The plots aren't usually very tight or original. Bullet Train actually impressed me quite a lot, because first thing I really liked was that it was all set in one place. It was all set on the train, which really gave me some classic literature vibes. It really gave me the it's like Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express with a bunch of assassins.
Interesting.
Which I thought was awesome. So I thought there was a lot of exposition in the movie to kind of set up who these characters are, which I thought the exposition was blended pretty well. But even though all the movie's set on the train, there are a lot of flashback sequences to establish these different characters and who they are. And sometimes they even get a little jokey with it. Like there's an entire flashback sequence for the story of a water bottle, which is... I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, we're doing this now, but it's
time out.
Funny. It's funny.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Without spoiling things, there's a water bottle that shows
Is
up.
he sentient?
No.
Okay.
At multiple points, there's this water bottle that shows up throughout the movie, and then at one point, there's just somewhere in the third act when crap's hitting the fan, the water bottle shows back up again, and then they do this whole flashback sequence on the backstory of the water bottle to show how it got to this point when crap's hitting the fan. It's a hilarious cutaway gag. Because they've done flashbacks for every other character at this point. The water bottle is one of the few things that shows up again and again in the movie. It was a little... Okay, in my original review on my website, I said that bit was kind of gratuitous for the flashbacks, but it's still funny. So... But there's a lot of great foreshadowing in this movie. There's a lot of great setup and payoff for... Can't get into a lot of things, but plot-specific things for you. But the setup and payoff were just really well done. I thought it was twisty and unpredictable, yet satisfying at the same time. Because a lot of times twists and whatnot, they're there, but I don't like them. I'm like, okay, that was a twist. I said this before about something like The Last Jedi. You did the unexpected. Doesn't mean I liked it. But this is... I liked it. I liked what they did with it.
That's how I feel about Last of Us Part 2 so far.
Yes. So, you actually have to pay attention in this movie, is the thing, because there's a lot of interconnected stories with all these assassins. A lot of them have backstories together or reasons they're on this train that you don't really find out until way later that were connected to other things. So, even I was paying attention, and even I kind of lost track about why everything was happening at a point, but it all does come together. There's some... Let's see. So, let's talk about some of the characters now. One of the things I thought was most interesting about the characters is that the trailers made it seem like Brad Pitt's movie, right? Brad Pitt's the lead assassin. He's the guy we're going to be following for most of the movie, and he'll be our eyes and ears. That's kind of true, but also I was shocked how much I found myself rooting for everybody, even though they were all working against each other. I'm like,
that's cool.
Yeah, even though they were all working against each other, I thought, oh, well, Brad Pitt's getting the lead. I don't want him to get the lead over these guys now. I like these guys. I want to see them succeed. And then when they started beating Brad Pitt, I'm like, oh, I want Brad Pitt to succeed. Why are you beating up on Brad Pitt? So I actually kind of liked everybody enough that even though they were fighting each other, I still was rooting for everybody on that train, which I thought was awesome. The moment that I started seeing the tide turn was, so we're introduced to Brad Pitt's character pretty early, and he's a really interesting character. They call him Ladybug, ironically, because he's an assassin who has notoriously bad luck, and ladybugs bring good luck, so his handler calls him Ladybug.
Nice.
Yeah, and he wants to get out of the assassin business. Well, sort of. I mean, he's kind of going as a pacifist now. He doesn't use guns. He sees a therapist, is always spouting these self-help things trying to go through his mission peacefully, avoid conflicts. He's just this really sage dude who happens to be an assassin going for this briefcase. But so he's a pretty interesting character that way. So after he's introduced, we get on the train, and then we meet these two guys named Lemon and Tangerine, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. And then the banter these two have, they're supposed to be, everyone calls them the twins, which is just funny because they look nothing alike, and you wouldn't think these guys were twins, but they do have a backstory.
Oh, this guy. Oh, he's from Eternals.
Yeah, that guy.
One of the good moments in Eternals.
Aaron Taylor Johnson was Quicksilver in Marvel, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ralph Boner. Not that one, I'm kidding.
So when you first meet these guys, they just kind of have this banter, and they're on that train to escort this mob boss's just idiot son. They were hired to escort the mob boss's idiot son and some money to the last stop on one of the last stops on the train. But then the son ends up murdered. Brad Pitt steals the briefcase, and they're like, shit. And then the mob is waiting for them at the last stop. So they're like,
oh god,
son of a bitch.
Do they do like a Weekend at Bernie's with like the son? They're like, hey, I'm here.
They try. They actually do try.
That's cool. That's funny.
There is one scene that, yeah. So that kind of made me start rooting for them because they get me invested in their story, what they're actually doing, and then you see Brad Pitt come in and steal the briefcase from the back room. And, at first we're just rooting for Brad Pitt, but now that I get to know these guys, I'm like, oh man, now I worry for them what's going to happen. I kind of want to see them get the case back now because they're so screwed without it. And then there's this father. They call him the father. His son got pushed off a roof at just before the start of the movie, and he's dying in the hospital. And the father, who I think is also an assassin, he finds out that he tracks down the person who did it, and they're on this train too. And the person,
it's a popular train.
Yeah, and the person who did it also she's trying to get one over on the mob boss who hired Lemon and Tangerine. So they're kind of working together against Lemon and Tangerine. And then there's this guy named the Wolf who this other mob, I think, yeah, it was the same mob boss. He had this thing that he's trying to get revenge on other people too and get the briefcase. And then he runs into Brad Pitt. And just everybody's on this train and kind of has a connection to this mob boss in some way or other. And then there's, nobody knows who actually killed the mob boss's son. So that's another thing everybody's trying to figure out. There's a really venomous snake from a zoo that went missing, and nobody knows where the snake went.
It's in the case, isn't it?
It's in one of them.
Oh.
It's
there's a decoy case. What the twist?
Yeah, so there's a snake around. Yeah, so there's a venomous snake around, and you never know who it's gonna bite, and the mob is waiting at a bunch of stations, so every time they try to get off the train, they don't get off the train, and Ladybug's bad luck keeps springing up at every opportunity. Every time he's nearly about to get things going okay, something terrible happens to him. And there's this great running gag about Thomas the Tank Engine.
Okay.
I haven't thought about that show in years, but I never heard it mentioned so many times. They just keep mentioning Thomas in like every other scene.
Interesting.
Because the one guy, Lemon, Thomas the Tank Engine's his favorite, Brian Tyree Henry, Thomas the Tank Engine's his favorite show. So, and he says that Thomas taught him how to read people, because he said all the trains are representative of personality types. And so he carries around this Thomas the Tank Engine sticker book. And when he thinks somebody's like one of the trains, he kind of labels them.
Oh, I see.
And he always says, diesels are the worst. So he's spending the entire movie going around this train, trying to find the diesel amongst them. Out of all these assassins, who's the diesel?
That's really funny.
Who's screwing everybody over? So the action is really well choreographed. I think the director,
John Wick.
yeah, the director directed the first John Wick, not the second or third.
Who
But I think
I just did some research. Was a second unit director on Captain America: Civil War.
well, and he also was the director of Deadpool 2.
Pretty good action.
Yeah.
Kind of a train in Deadpool 2. It's not really a train, it's a convoy, a bus. But you can see, you probably saw that scene like, we need him.
Yes. And Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was in Deadpool 2, if you recall.
Oh, that's right, for for a few seconds. Oh, there's a funny interview when he was doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and someone brought up that he was in an MCU movie, and he's doing the interview with Leo and Margot Robbie, and Brad Pitt's trying to explain to Leo like what the MCU was. Like, you need me just for this one bit. I was just an invisible guy, whatever. And Leo just goes, I'm completely lost. What did you just say? Like, he doesn't understand like that side of film or cinema. But he wasn't doing it in a condescending way. He was just actually just confused. It was really funny.
That's really funny. So, the choreography is great. The action is incredible. The third act, kind of like Prey, the CGI gets a little bit wonky. There wasn't really a lot of CGI before. Kind of like Prey, it's just a very simple story, choreography and stunt acting driven. But then the end, kind of like Prey, veers into CG territory, which I didn't think was really up to par, but it's used a lot more than I would have wanted towards the end, but I also get why it was used a lot at the end once you get there. But if you can overlook that, most of the movie is really just kind of this cat and mouse game on who gets the briefcase, all these assassins, they have to survive the night. There's a lot of unexpected twists, getting to know all these people, rooting for everybody, figuring out what's really going on.
Does any of them get on top of the train, like in Wolverine?
Maybe. Can't spoil nothing.
So that's a yes.
I said maybe.
I think he was a second unit director on that as well.
I'm not gonna hide it. Yeah, somebody. No, I won't hide that one. Somebody does get on the train top.
Is it the water bottle?
Maybe. So
that'd be funny. Just like shit.
I thought the movie, for some critique, the movie was a little weirdly paced. It was a little over 2 hours, but it felt longer to me.
Oh wow.
But I was also invested the entire time about what was happening. I was always entertained. So it felt long, but I think that's just because they packed a lot in there. There was a lot of information to remember and figure things out. So I don't want to hold it against the movie too much. It wasn't a deal breaker for me, but it is something to keep in mind. And like I said, the CGI wasn't great either. I also thought it was pretty incredible how they managed to make this train feel so fresh for 2 hours when the entire movie is just set in one place. The cinematography was also incredible. The different colors they used. Every single train car had its own personality. So there were a couple.
That's cool.
Yeah, there were a couple.
Kind of like Snowpiercer in a way.
Yeah, there were a couple cars they went back to a couple of times, but I always knew which car was which because of just the coloring and the vibes and everything. Oh yeah, and there's some great cameos too. Just things you'd never expect to see pop up in this movie.
Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, this is hilarious. I can't say who's in what. That would spoil it. They're great cameos. They're great cameos though. So
Orson Welles.
Yes, they had to bring him back from the dead for this film, Grand Moff Tarkin style.
Oh God.
It's a great cast too. Everyone is incredible in it. Like I said, I rooted for everybody. The only one I didn't love was the character named... The water bottle was great though. The character Prince, played by Joey King.
Mm-hmm.
My main problem with her wasn't her performance by any means. She was doing exactly
just her character.
Her character was just kind of... So she's kind of this teenage kid with a chip on her shoulder, but she's really intelligent as well. And she's the one... She's got this vendetta against the mobster, but she's kind of... she's pretty smug and arrogant and not all that likable as a character. But I kind of sympathize with her way later in the movie when I found out what her backstory actually was and why she was on this train. But that doesn't come till the third act nearly. So for 2/3 of this movie, I'm like, ugh, this arrogant kid who's kind of outsmarting everybody in many ways. But it does all come together in the end. It's just, I had to be a lot more patient with that character in particular. And I really believe that this is going to be a cult classic action film.
Oh, for sure. It looks like it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Bullet Train.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's kind of thrown in. It's a strange release date where it's not like a blockbuster summer movie, or maybe it was intended for that, but it's like thrown like almost near the end of summer, where most people wouldn't really be going to the movies, I feel. But that's just my opinion.
I think it's doing okay, but critics are slamming it. I think they're wrong on this one. I think it's a must-see. It's going to make my top 10 this year, unless something knocks it out. We'll do a top 10 list at the end of the year.
I don't even know if I've seen 10 movies yet.
You've probably seen some on streaming.
Maybe.
Streaming counts too. I just don't watch them as much.
Yeah. I would just have to look it up.
Yeah. So, even if they're all Marvel, half your list can be Marvel.
Most of them are. But I'm not going to put... So far, not putting Marvel in the top 10. I feel like Black Panther or Wakanda Forever is going to be very good.
I'm nervous for it, but I'm not really.
I'm nervous, but it's Ryan Coogler back, and he's the only returning director who doesn't have a giant ego. Unlike how I feel Taika Waititi kind of does a little bit now. But other than that...
I think, the success has kind of gone to Waititi's head a little bit. He's still good. But
he's still good. He's still an amazing director. I mean, Jojo Rabbit is one of my favorite movies to come out in the last few years.
Yeah. Well, this isn't a Marvel discussion anyway. It's about...
It somehow always becomes.
Yes. That or Star Wars. Always. One of the two. So I gave my best pitch. Do you think you're going to see Bullet Train eventually?
Oh, yeah. Like I said before, it's one of these movies that's on my list, but I'm not just rushing to see, like, going to the theater. But I just, like, recently watched some clips just to see what the action looks like. And, yeah, it looks well choreographed. I really enjoy the cast.
Oh yeah, I should also mention that the movie's a lot funnier than expected. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of drama and decent in really good doses. It's a very dramatic movie, but it's also really funny.
That's good. Yeah, I really like the cast. That really land. Yeah. I like Brad Pitt. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson, of course. Joey King has this representation of like just being an okay actress, but I think she's actually really good. I think that just comes from like the Kissing Booth movies. Right. But she was in, I think it was White House Down. Even though that's kind of like a cheesy movie, she does pretty well in it. Oh my god, she's 23 now. Wow. That's crazy. Oh yeah, she was in The Dark Knight Rises. She was young Talia al Ghul. In the pit. You barely notice. You would have to rewatch to be like, oh yeah, that's her.
Well.
Oh yeah, she was crazy. Yeah, you'll see like old like mid 2000s movie, and you'll see like a young Joey King. You're like, wow, that's her.
Yeah. Once again, to clarify, she was good in the movie. I just thought her character just sort of was a mixed bag for me until closer to the end when I got what they were going for with her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's wrap her up here and plug our socials.
Hold on. Sorry, I'm just reading this. But on the Kissing Booth, she was also an executive director. She would have been 20.
Well.
What the executive producer. What the? How? What? Is that legal? Good for her, though. Anyway. But yeah, Bullet Train looks like a lot of fun. It's definitely one of those where it looks like the type of movie where it's literally just a popcorn movie. Where you can just like chow down on popcorn and enjoy it the whole time. It's one of those movies, I don't think it looks like it's one of those movies that's meant to take itself seriously. And those are the type of movies sometimes that you just have to watch just to have a good time.
It doesn't take itself seriously, but once again, there is a lot to it. So it's not just to turn your brain off and chomp down on popcorn kind of movie. You do have to you do use your mind at least a little watching it. But yeah, I agree. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I do highly recommend Bullet Train. Let's plug our socials. And Prey was
How long was Brad Pitt wearing the bucket hat for, though?
whole thing.
Fuck. I don't like bucket hats.
Wait, not all. No, actually, not all of it. I think he gets rid of it by the third act. Oh wait, no, he gets rid of it. Oh,
he
yeah,
gets a new one.
No, I remember the scene. He gets rid of it. It's a great scene. Why he. Okay, let's plug our socials.
Well, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Ryan Walker Official.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at ThoughtPlay Media and our Facebook page of the same name. Find further film discussion and entertainment reviews on thoughtplane.ca/articles. And if you'd be so kind, you can support ThoughtPlane Media on Patreon, link below. Also, be sure to leave us comments and reviews, as that's a big help. And how about clicking that like button if you enjoyed this? We hope to see you on the next close-up with Ryan and Joe. Till next time.
Get to the chopper. Now you have to recall it. Soup. There you go.